Nerds About Books, Ben.
It is gift-giving edition.
Yeah, I'm back from vacation. I was in Colorado. It was great. You're back from, I assume, the hospital, which was probably less of a fun vacation.
I didn't have to go to the hospital, but I had the walking pneumonia.
Walking pneumonia. All right. I still think my vacation was better. It involved a lot. It involved my lungs working as intended.
I think I took 2 days off work, not in a row, because I had to get a release out. It was supposed to go out tonight, and then it got canceled.
Because of your pneumonia?
No.
They're like, we can't do it without Ben.
Reasons unrelated to anything with my team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I did all of that for nothing.
And you worked while sick. What a champ.
Yep. If it's any consolation, I didn't do very good work.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Yep. So we're talking about a book I haven't read. You've read it.
Yeah. Yeah. We gave each other books for our Christmas episode this year, and we each read a different book. I'm going to talk about the book you gave me, which is it's a new Poirot book, not by Agatha Christie, called If I Did It, Confessions of a Killer, where Poirot tries to solve the O.J. Simpson murders.
I mean, I don't think solving it was the problem.
It was a very short book, admittedly. He goes on there and is like, I don't think you guys need me.
Yeah. No, that's not what it's about. That's just your latest obsession.
It is a fascinating book. But what I am actually going to talk about is The Monogram Murders by Sophie Hannah. I remembered that. I definitely didn't have to look that up again.
Yeah. So I said this on the episode where we did the gift giving, but just to remind people, or for anyone who didn't listen to that, I picked this for you because you love murder mysteries. You like Agatha Christie, and Sophie Hannah was, I believe, invited by the Christie estate to write a continuation of the Hercule Poirot mysteries. I don't think it's a continuation. I think it takes place somewhere in the middle because I think he might die at the end.
What? I can't believe that he's a mortal man with that mustache.
I only know about this book from my mom, who's a huge Agatha Christie fan, and she listens to a podcast. I think it's called All About Agatha. I know the host is a guy named Kemper Donovan, and he talked about this book. He interviewed Sophie Hannah. So that's probably, if this tickles your fancy, that might be something to go check out.
Yeah, but also check out our Christmas episode because,
listen to every episode of Words About Books first.
Exactly.
Then you can go listen to other podcasts.
First clear, you have to do a 100% clear rate, and then you can go to that other podcast.
But yeah, so how was it? I really don't know anything about it other than that.
Yeah, apparently Goodreads doesn't like it. It's like sitting at like a 3.6, which, as we said, Goodreads, usually you can't tell if a book is good from it, but you can usually tell if it's bad from a low score. And I disagree with that low score.
It's a rare one for us.
Yeah, to be fair, I've only read 3-4 Agatha Christie books, so I'm not like an expert, but I can say this felt like an Agatha Christie book. It felt like Poirot was true to form, true to character.
Was Hastings there?
No. It's another guy who people hated called Catchpool, Detective Catchpool. And to be fair, he's kind of a dummy, but he makes me feel smarter by comparison. So, he did his job.
That's the job of a Watson, yeah.
Yeah, he did his job.
What's the complaint on Goodreads? What's the through line here?
It didn't feel like Christie. It was overly convoluted. It was too long. Now it is longer than the Christie books I've read. It's like 400 some odd pages.
That is close to double the length of the average Christie, I
Yeah,
think.
but when you say it's convoluted, like I think every mystery book I've read is in some way convoluted or it's meant for children, right?
So what
Like
have we read by Christie? We read
Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is a little convoluted to hide the fact that spoiler alert. Well, I won't spoil it here, but who the murderer is, she takes some creative liberties.
it's definitely it's a good twist. I mean, there's a twist. That's a
Yeah,
spoiler,
yeah,
but
it's not cheating, but it was like you took some liberties to hide that, right?
yeah. And then we read what was it? What did they
Uh,
change the name of it to? Um,
yeah. Is it 10 Little Soldiers?
10 little soldiers might be what they changed it to. Um, something like
And
that.
then there was one.
And then there
Then there
was
were
one.
none.
And then there were
Yeah,
none.
then there was none. Yeah.
Um,
Which, if you think that wasn't convoluted bullshit with the Rube Goldberg machine to hide the true killer, or the fact that we hear everyone's thoughts, but one of the guys who is the killer is definitely not thinking what he should be thinking. Like, all mystery books are a little convoluted and a little like that's bullshit, right? You
yeah.
usually don't find a bloody glove and a knit cap at the crime scene that perfectly matches the only single suspect in a murder mystery because it's about a mystery. It could be anyone, right?
Well, I mean, we talked about the Honjin murders with its Rube Goldberg machine. We talked about the mystery of the Yellow Room with
Which was with its
that was
bullshit
insane.
cheating where she rolls out of
Yeah.
bed and whacks her head on the fucking stand,
And
and
then
it's like fuck you, book.
during the course of
No.
that, we talked about Murders at the Rue Morgue, where, of course, an orangutan did it. So I do think there might be two things going on here. There might be a tendency of the hardcore Christie fan to be a little precious about the material, and there might be a tendency of the casual Christie fan to maybe have watched a million adaptations, maybe the BBC. Oh, it's the guy who played Poirot forever. Oh no, David Suchet. That's his name. Watching the old David Suchet Poirot stuff on reruns, and
I believe it's pronounced David Suchet.
could be. It's not, but it could be. Pretty sure I've heard him say his name. So,
Good evening, and a very Merry Christmas to you. I'm David Suchet, and I'm speaking to you direct from the BBC studios.
He could be pronouncing it wrong. I mean, you never know.
people would argue I pronounce my last name wrong all the time, whatever it may be.
Edward?
No, that's definitely it.
That's pretty hard to mess up, but you know.
But yeah, so I think there's probably a lot of people who have forgotten maybe what the books are like, and a lot of people who were just never going to be happy with anything else.
Yeah.
So what kind of mystery are we in for here? Is this a locked room? Is this a
No.
Thank God.
Yeah, no, right? No, it's not that. I'm just gonna. I guess we should just assume spoilers from here on out, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a new Poirot by a new author. Christie Estate sanctioned it, so it's close to canon. If you care about it, go check it out.
This is in the 1930s during a time where war was done. Ben, we were never going to have another war ever again. We got it all out of our system, and like bright future ahead of us, right? Other than the Great Depression, I guess, which is currently happening all over the world. That's actually a little unfortunate, but
I was
Poirot.
gonna say, I imagine Poirot's still rich. So
Well, he's retired, bumming around in England. So yeah, I assume he's very rich. As are most of the people in this story, I think.
I mean, you can't write a murder mystery about poor people. It's like poor people
Yeah,
just
who would
they
care,
die all the time.
right?
That's not interesting.
Yeah,
They probably killed each other for food or something. You know, it's a boring crime. Rich
yeah,
people, they commit interesting crimes.
yeah. And this is one of the most interesting crimes of them all. So Poirot, he's just chilling out in his favorite coffee shop, Pleasance, when
Maybe that's a regular coffee shop.
no, it's his coffee shop, Ben. It's his favorite.
No, I mean like maybe it's a recurring coffee shop in the
Oh,
stories.
sure. I don't know. So Poirot is just chilling out, having his I don't know what Belgians and Englishmen have their pre-dinner tea, their dinner tea. I don't know. And in storms Jenny. She's a woman who's like deathly afraid. She's looking out the window as she comes in. She's acting all frantic. She's afraid someone's trying to get her. And Poirot obviously is intrigued. Like, that's a little strange. Are you doing okay? I've got a friend in Scotland Yard who can protect you if you need protection. She's insistent. She doesn't need protection. She doesn't need help. And she's going to die soon, Ben. She's going to be dead.
Those are
And
contradictory statements.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's okay with dying, even though she looks terrified. She says, "When I turn up dead, don't look into the murders because justice will finally be done once I'm dead." Okay.
Okay.
Finally, be able to lay the past to rest.
Is she attempting some reverse psychology on Poirot? That seems like a terrible thing to say to a detective.
He's like, so I'm not going to do that. And she bails and she flees. Don't solve my murder. Okay, bye. Bye. This is all from Catchpool's perspective as he's writing down his memoirs after the fact. So something happened, Ben.
Was she
That
murdered?
night, there were 3 murders at the Bloxham Hotel, a fancy, rich, upper-class hotel.
These are probably interesting
The,
murders then.
the staff was alerted to this after finding a note that was delivered to the front desk that read, "May they never rest in peace. 121, 238, 317. Those are the room numbers.
Ooh.
3 people are dead. 1 in each room. Each of them have been laid out in a way like they're going to be dressed up for like the morgue. Like their palms are turned up. They are perfectly vertical on the floor as if they just like laid down and died. And each of them has a cufflink, a monogrammed cufflink stuffed into their mouths.
Ooh.
None of them are Jenny.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does Poirot get involved in these then?
So obviously Poirot, he's like, let's do it, Catchpool. I think that these murders are going to somehow be linked to Jenny. Or I can just call her Jenny, but whatever. I like the way he says it with his Belgian accent. And
Did you read this or listen to it?
I listened to it.
I bought you the Kindle version.
Yeah, and I had shit I needed to do. So now I have both, Ben.
It's kind of not really in the spirit of the present to tell the person, that you didn't use their present. You bought a different one. It's fine. It's fine. Continue.
Yeah, if it helps, I did the, well, I could have synced it. I didn't, but I could have, like I could have used.
Yeah, you could have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't, but you know, like the spirit was there, kind of. Like I could have, but I didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
like one day you may be found murdered in a hotel with a Kindle shoved in your mouth, but you know,
but there won't be an audio playing in the background. So,
maybe Monogram Murders will be playing in the background. We'll leave that one up to the detectives.
so, so Poirot is convinced that these are somehow linked to Jenny, who no one can find anywhere, by the way. She's disappeared. He's afraid they need to figure out who killed these three people in order to save Jenny from getting got herself. I think those were his exact words. She's gonna get got unless we solve this mystery.
That sounds like Poirot.
And Catchpool is like, he's got this trauma where he doesn't like seeing dead bodies. He used to have to like go and like hold his grandfather's hand when he was a kid, as his grandfather was dying of cancer, and so he like doesn't want to go see these bodies.
And what's his job?
He's a detective at Scotland Yard.
Okay. Guess he specializes in like financial crime, or
Well, this was 1929. I just looked at my date. It's actually 1929. I don't think financial crime had been invented until later that year, Ben.
until later that year.
and Poirot is convinced because you know how you have cufflinks. It's one for each arm. There's only 3 cufflinks here. There's got to be a 4th one. And Catchpool's like, well, why don't we just assume, like, that's stupid. Why don't we just assume there's like 6 or 8? And Poirot's like, I mean, fair point. Shouldn't we, like, isn't that even more of a reason to solve this murder before?
Yeah, the point is
Like,
there's more than
before
3.
before like 10 people show up dead. Like, I don't know. I don't know if you're making a good case here. So the cufflink was monogrammed P.I.J.
Pidge.
But we're going to find out later that it's actually P.J.I. because the way monograms work in English, which offends Poirot. Like, why would you put the last name in the middle and bigger than the other 2 initials? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But yeah, it's actually PJI.
I think that offends me too.
Yeah, I would agree. I even wrote my note that the English just do it wrong.
Yeah, they're strange people.
And God, what is Luca Lazzari is who they meet at the Bloxham. He is the Bloxham's owner, and he is aggressively Italian. He's so fucking Italian that it hurts.
Ah, mamma mia.
And he believes that his staff are beyond reproach. He only hires the best staff to work at the Bloxham, Ben. None of them could have committed this horrible murder.
Okay, I didn't think they did.
Well, good, because they couldn't have. Because they're all perfect.
I mean, you're kind of making me think that maybe they did.
No, Ben. They're perfect.
I don't know. I mean, you're a foreigner in a 1929 murder mystery. I don't know.
Hey now. He was aggressively Italian, okay? And that is a phrase that is okay for about 10 more years, all right? It's maybe not so cool a decade from this time period. But for now, it's okay. And Jenny said something to Poirot before she left, like, please let no one open their mouths. This crime must never be solved. That's where, and the way she said it was like, well, that's weird. That's how they found the monograms.
Isn't he retired? Why would she say this to him?
He is retired. But he has told her he has a Scotland Yard friend. But she doesn't want him to solve the murder. Or does she?
I think she does.
I also think that maybe she's a little suspicious. You know?
Maybe she did it.
Maybe, Ben. No one can find her.
There'd definitely be like a warrant out for her. I mean, maybe as a witness, maybe as a defendant.
If they had such things in 1929, I don't know, Ben.
If anything, I think they could just grab you in 1929.
That's probably fair. So, all three of these people who came on the same day. Here, I'll give you their names too. There's Ida Gronsberry.
Ida
I
Gronsberry.
love these names. There's
Okay.
Harriet Sipple, Ida Gronsberry, and Richard Negus.
These sound like Agatha Christie names.
They sure do. And each of them came on the same day, the day before. Each of them died the same day, which is the day that Jenny came and found Poirot. Each of them was seen alive at about 7:15 exactly. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna get into the timing because, as with any good murder mystery, the time of death is gonna shift around, Ben, as we learn more.
Okay.
But all three of them ordered dinner, got to their rooms, and then died.
Okay.
So
Were they
it
seen
looks
talking
like
to each other? Did they have a relationship?
they were seen dining together. They knew each other.
Okay.
But then they all went to their respective rooms and died. They were all poisoned, Ben. And at one point, Poirot is laying this out to Catchpool, who's a little slow at times. And he was like, okay, so what do you think happened, Catchpool? Do you really think that the murderer went into room 100 and whatever, gave the poison to Harriet, watched and waited for her to die, then made his room upstairs, and then did the same thing with Ida, and then just waiting for them to take their poison? That's ridiculous. You're ridiculous. You're an idiot.
No, he
But it's
clearly
also,
he poisoned the lasagna.
yes. But the strange thing is that every room looked the same, but there were some weird things about Richard Negus's room. He's the guy on the top floor in room 300 and whatever. So his cufflink was at the back of his throat instead of in his mouth. And his room key, they actually find it's behind like a loose tile. And the window was left open. And that is a little strange. Why would the killer go to such extremes to make all three rooms look the same and then just get like lazy in the final room or something? They do determine that the window was also opened after his death. I can't remember how they figured that out, but they know it was.
Okay. I was going to say, it sounds like he died last.
Yeah? That's what they conclude.
And that maybe he was alive long enough to like partially swallow or choke on the cufflink.
Yeah, you're thinking like a detective. You're thinking a lot better than Catchpool, for sure.
Well, I'm not a Pokemon character.
Yeah. So they talk to all the staff in the same place. I'm not gonna bore you with details. There's a lot of details that will come unraveled a little later, but the boiler, what's his name? The boiler.
No idea.
Boiler something? Fuck. Boilermaker? That's what it's called? That's what I wrote.
It's just like a maintenance guy? Is this like a guy who keeps
I assume he's a maintenance guy.
the boiler running?
He's over here. He has a half-shaven face, right?
Which half?
He shaved, he cut himself, and then he just like stopped shaving after that. So half his face.
Are we talking like left half?
Yes, Ben.
Oh.
And he's wearing like some really unkempt clothing, and yeah, he's kind of an ass. He starts mocking Poirot like to his face. He starts trying to like mimic his accent, just right to his face. His name is Kid.
Well,
Mr. Kid.
you'd never do anything like that.
No, absolutely not.
Not to his
Poirot.
face.
No, exactly. You have to be an adult about this, you know? Adults don't mock each other to each other's faces. We do that in the privacy of our own home,
On a podcast.
possibly on a podcast.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But as we know, no one listens to podcasts. Or at the very least, not this one.
So it's basically like
It's like therapy.
private.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Samuel Kidd, and he remembers seeing something weird, but he can't remember like exactly what it was. Yeah, he's not super helpful at first, but he knows he saw someone, like a woman, running from the hotel who dropped a key with like 200 something on it. I don't know. I'll if I remember anything, I'll get back with you.
Who'd he give the key to?
Whoever it was picked the key up and ran away.
How did he know it said 200 on it?
Because he could clearly make it out, Ben. He's not a bullshit artist, Ben. Why would you even insinuate that? Why would you insinuate this man with a half-shaven face is some sort of idiot or bullshit con artist? How dare you?
So was Luigi Mario there when they talked to the boiler man? When he was like, he's like, my employees are like top of the line, best of the best. And this guy with a half-shaven face shows up and he's like, yeah, I remember seeing something, but I don't remember what. Did Poirot just like turn and slow stare? Like,
I don't think he was there that day, but I there was a lot going on that meeting. A lot of people were like, "Oh yeah, I saw the murder victims on this point and at this point," and it's like, okay, I'm not following any of this, and I know it's going to change later, so I'm just going to wait for the book to tell me how it's different later.
so how is it different later?
Well, they learn that all three of these people, two of them came from the same village, and one of them also, Richard Negus, used to live in that village. Richard Negus came from Devon. That's not super important. He lived with his brother. I only know where Devon is because of Crusader Kings. It's not important, Ben.
I forget why I know where Devon is. They talk about. I feel like Devon gets mentioned a lot in like BBC shows.
Oh yeah, maybe it's a weird place where weird things happen.
I feel like it's a place
ocean,
they pick on. Yeah.
So all three of these people originally hailed from the village of Great Halling.
Great. What
And
now?
Villages are apparently backwards shitholes. That checks out based on just towns near me that are minuscule in size. Sounds like a nightmare to live there. Everyone knows everyone's business.
You know what I've never.
It's kind of gross.
You know what I've never been able to get used to.
The Amish.
Well, yeah, but when you're watching like a British show and they talk about Southerners as if they're like spoiled city folk, and I like,
oh, that is weird because London's in the South.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy, over here, exact opposite.
Opposite.
Yeah, no, it's so weird. Like it's I have to remind myself every time it's a different country, man. They're not talking about the South. They're talking about like an hour drive south of them.
Yeah, they're talking about like a brisk walk, and you're there.
I love that. Have you ever like had the experience of trying to explain to a British tourist that like you cannot drive from New York to California in a day?
Yeah, it's shocking to them.
Yeah,
because America's so fucking gigantic. All right, so Poirot is gonna stay here in London. You can go to Great Halling, Catchpool. Bye. And Catchpool's like, I really don't want to. Like, villages suck. And Poirot's like, no, you're going. Like, I mean, I'm not your boss, but like, isn't this your job? No, you're going. I'm not your boss, but I am your boss.
I'm not your
So
boss, but I know your boss.
Yeah, get your shit packed up, get on the train, you're going. Okay, bye. So he meets a drunk at Great Halling. That is kind of important, but I didn't write down much of what he said, and it wasn't like super important, so I'm just gonna skip to the important part,
Okay.
which is the backstory, Ben. So there was a vicar here. His name was Patrick Ives.
Okay.
His middle name was Jay. There's your monogram.
Oh.
Yeah. So a tragedy befell his family. He and his wife Frances moved to Great Halling to be the village vicar. And
Which is like a
maid.
pastor?
Yes, a pastor, but with a different name, from what I can tell.
Okay.
And his maid, God, I can't remember her name. I think it was like Jenny or something.
Oh my God.
She told.
It's all coming together.
She told. Uh, she told the town bitch Harriet Sipple, who, from what everyone says, she used to be like the sweetest woman ever, and then her husband died real young, and she spent the rest of her life being an old crone ahead of her time. She was always in everyone else's business. She was always stirring shit up. She was always taking these righteous stands, and that maid told her a rumor that Patrick Ives saw a woman named Nancy Duquesne, who's a famous artist. By the way, Poirot at the same time is being told that by the Boilermaker, hey, I remember who had those keys. It was Nancy Duquesne. I remembered that because I saw the newspaper and it jogged my memory. Biscuits and crumpets, mate. I have an accent that's like it from Liverpool or some shit. So
Only the
Poirot's
best.
gonna go talk. Yeah.
So is he
Get the
like,
words about books.
is he sus or is he just stupid?
Both?
Okay.
So Poirot goes to talk to Nancy Duquesne. But meanwhile, Catchpool's getting all this backstory. So Jenny saw Nancy Duquesne go into Patrick Ives' house late at night. And what they did was he was selling her some bullshit that she could speak to the deceased ghost of Nancy's dead husband. And, that's like blasphemy.
Yeah.
And so,
It's a little light necromancy.
Harriet starts spreading this around with her friends, Ida Gransberry and Richard Negus.
It was a pretty open and shut case.
And all of them whip the town to a frenzy, try to get him thrown out of the town, basically just trying to run him out of town. And Nancy comes clean and was like, that's not what he was doing. I'm in love with him. I came there and our love was never, it was purely platonic, but like that's what happened. Nothing heretical or anything happened. So
this isn't wildly better.
This is not wildly better. So
like that would have been a better rumor, actually.
Yeah, Richard Negus immediately is like, "Oh, okay, I'm done with this." That's like, I maybe bought a little too hard into the frenzy.
Okay, I'm done with this. I came here to stop a necromancer, I'm not here to mess with another man's side piece. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Bro code. No, let's
Yeah.
do it.
And he was engaged to Ida. Richard was.
Oh.
That'll be important. So no, Harriet just takes it even further. Like, okay, he was probably doing the necromancy thing and sleeping around. We can get rid of him. And after hearing about how,
I feel like having an emotional affair with a woman from your congregation is enough.
yeah, well, it was enough for Patrick Ives' wife Frances to die mysteriously in an accident.
I really thought you were going to say leave.
No, she dies. And then after finding her dead, Patrick Ives also dies. Now it's
No,
going to come out later. They say it was an accident.
I say it was ghosts. This dude was
It
into
was
black
suicide.
magic. What are you talking about?
It was suicide.
He summoned
Francis-
demons.
Francis drank poison. Patrick drank poison. And the village doctor, who was friends with them and was the only one defending them, wrote it off as an accident because suicide is still a sin in 1929.
I mean, it's a sin now. I mean,
No, 1929. It's a post 9/11 world, Ben. So
it's a pre 9/11
pretty
world.
Yeah, it's post 9/11 world now, though. So suicide is all right with God, I think.
No, no. I think I've been to church more recently than you. I think it's still frowned upon.
Okay, well, agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree.
So, oh yeah, this is all being relayed by Margaret Ernst. She's not super important, but she'll show up a little later. But what will come to light later when they go back to Grand Halling, because Margaret makes Catchpool swear not to talk to the doctor, and so he doesn't. And Poirot is like, "You and your stupid English honor. We're gonna need to go and talk to him."
I think that's being very generous to the English. I think that's a guy who just didn't want to work.
I would agree. So, what will come to light is Harriet then wanted to have his body dug up because he was buried on consecrated ground, and they are certain it was a suicide, and that is what will lead Richard Negus to leave Ida, go to Devon, and never look back, and basically break off their engagement. Ida never gets up with another man. Harriet continues to be an awful little shit. And Margaret spends most of her time watching the grave for anyone who might come and defile it. Also, people straight up are avoiding Catchpool in this little village because they're afraid of this story getting out.
Well, they were right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole book about it now.
So Margaret, when asked who could have done all this, Margaret's like, Nancy Duquesne is the only person who would have all the means and motive. And that is also what Poirot figures out, and so he goes and talks to her.
Is she dead too?
No, she's alive.
Oh.
She's a famous painter now, and she's famous in all of London and all of I guess it's called Britain or the UK. I don't know what it's called at this point in time. It's probably one.
England is just the one country. Britain
is the big island.
I think is the island. And
then
the United Kingdom includes part of Ireland.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So Poirot is like, so these three people are dead, Nancy. And Nancy's like, oh my God, why did you have to bring those people's names up? And she's all nervous and shit. And they find the 3 keys in her coat. And she's like, I've never seen those keys in my life. What the hell? And Poirot is like, yeah, I believe you, because why would you have kept them in your coat? I think you're being set up to be framed. And where were you at this time? And she's like, I was with my friend's so-and-so. And Poirot goes to her friends, and her friends are like, yeah, she was here from this time to this time. So it couldn't have been Nancy. She wasn't there at the time. But Poirot sees a very strange painting, Ben. See, Nancy was painting a portrait of their friend. And the portrait, everything about it looks amazing, except there's like this really weird blue bowl in the portrait. And
Okay.
and he looks around the house and he's like, there's no blue bowl in your house. And it turns out she's like, that fucking maid must have broken the bowl or lost it or something. God damn it. And Poirot's like, yeah, that's it. But that comes up later, Ben. That comes up later.
Okay.
So, Catchpool and Poirot get back together. Poirot, immediately after hearing Catchpool's story, is like, that Margaret is in love with the doctor. You're dumb. Like, obviously. Anyway, good story. Cool story, bro. Hold on. I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. Where am I?
6 months later.
Okay, yeah, okay. That's what I thought happened next. I just wasn't entirely sure. So, when Catchpool gets back, they hear there has been a fourth murder. And they go to the room 400 something, and there's a pool of blood, and a monogram cufflink, and Jenny's hat is in the middle of the room, or in the corner of the room.
Was it Jenny's room?
It was, Ben. Poirot blames himself for not solving the murder quick enough.
I mean,
But it's weird because why is this different? There's no body here. It looks like someone dragged the body out of the room or something. Why? Why? This room is just weird, right?
yeah. I don't believe Jenny's dead until I see a body.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither. I think they go and they talk to Nancy again, and Nancy does reveal she was having an affair with Ives, and it was
No
in
shit.
fact physical. It was not platonic where she tried to come on to him and he rebuffed her. They were getting it on.
Wow.
Who would have thought?
Takes the world's greatest detective to put that one together.
But also, Jenny was in love with the Ives.
Well, that explains why she
Patrick
told
Dawson.
everybody.
She started the rumor out of jealousy.
Yeah.
So, Poirot decides to play a game with Catchpool, which I think was called Let's Knock and See Who Comes. They're going to go visit Samuel Kidd, the witness who saw Nancy drop all those keys.
Yeah, the
guy with the stupid face.
The half-faced boiler man, yeah.
They knock on the door, and they're like, okay, Catchpool's like, what do we want to talk to Kidd about? And Poirot's like, oh, he's at work right now. He's not going to be here. So, like, why are we here? Who's at the door, Ben?
Is it the lady who's I said I didn't believe she was dead?
Jenny.
Yeah.
Yes.
She answered the door.
She answered the door.
That was stupid.
That was very stupid of her, yes. Very fucking dumb.
You're really bad at pretending to be dead, Jenny.
So,
You can't order pizza when you're pretending to be dead.
After much hesitation, she lets them inside. I mean, what is she gonna do? Like, I'm dead. Sorry. I can't come to the door. Okay, bye.
I'm a ghost.
Ooh. You're not buying it, are you? Okay, come on in.
Yeah, it's like, well, you can
So
let us in, or my buddy can arrest you.
So after a bit, like they're sitting there, she's nervous outside, but she finally comes in. She finally sits down to talk with them, because even though she knows what they're going to say, she was an adult about the situation, and she sat down and she had an adult conversation when it needed to happen. I don't know why I'm harping so much on this particular thing. Yeah, it's probably not that important. All I can say is that Jenny was an adult and did face her fears and her anxieties and have an adult conversation with another adult.
And she was promptly
Anyway,
convicted of interfering in an investigation,
so she says,
tampering with
okay,
evidence.
let me tell you the real story about what happened.
Perjury.
Richard Negus reached out to me many months ago. He was like, I can't live with myself after what happened. Like, there's this empty void inside of me, and I finally know what we need to do. We need to pay for our sins. You and me and Ida and Harriet. And if I know you won't believe this, but I've been talking to Ida and Harriet for months, years now, that they need to pay for their sins, and they're on board with it. So we're going to have a little execution suicide pact here, and we're going to atone, because we drove Patrick and Francis Ives to death, so we deserve death. And
That's you might want to reread the Bible.
nope, this is how that works. So I will put poison. No, Ida will put poison in Harriet's drink, and then I'll poison. Or no, you'll poison. Jenny will
Oh,
poison
so it's
her.
not suicide. They're murdering each other.
They're murdering each other.
That's how they're getting around the old suicide rule.
Yeah. We'll each
There's still the
poison each
murder
other.
rule.
Yeah, we'll each poison each other. All four of us will die. Case closed. It'll be easy, and we'll put the cufflinks in our body. Or, each one of us before we'll put the cufflink in, and we'll pay for our sins.
Yeah,
Great.
as compelling an offer as that is, no, I actually don't feel super guilty because, like, he was cheating on his wife. So, like, though I said it out of jealousy, like, it was true. He didn't have to kill himself. He could have just not cheated on his wife, or he could have just, like, not killed himself. But you do you, man. I'm not going to stop you. If you want to go have a little suicide party, you go nuts. But I'm gonna sit this one out.
All right. Well, too bad, because you're on board with this. But then Harriet is like, who else is responsible for this? Nancy Duquesne.
Harriet, can you just shut up? This is why we're in the suicide pact in the first place. Because of shit like this, Harriet.
So, yeah, Jenny is like, wow, what a bitch. She has to get someone else punished. It's always someone else. And Harriet's like, all of us have to die. That includes Duquesne. And Jenny is like, okay, here's a plan, right? How about we fake my death, all you guys die, and then I will frame Nancy. And we'll get her hung, and when she's hanging in the gallows, then I'll kill myself. For real. Bada bing, bada boom. Everyone's punished. What do you think? That was just to Richard, by the way. Richard and Jenny had talked in private how they're going to get Nancy that way, and Richard's like, yeah, you do it. And they were like, why you, Jenny? And she was like, he thought that I was the best of us, but I was a coward, and I didn't want to die after all, after everything happened. And I also didn't want to kill him. So, yeah, I didn't show up to poison him, and he did it anyway, and so that's why, must have spasmed while he was choking on the monogram. That's why it ended up at the back of his throat. And he hid his key behind that tile to make it look like, like all the other murder scenes, because it'd be weird if the keys weren't all together.
Jenny, just as the police officer, you're confessing all this too. You don't make good decisions.
But all she did, she was like, okay, all I did was the lesser crime of trying to frame someone for murder.
Well, you still let 3 people die.
They killed each other, and that was
Yeah, but you were in a
apparently
conspiracy.
1929 was very lenient on
You were in a conspiracy with them to
charges.
do that, and you could have stopped it, but you didn't. You're also guilty of like numerous other crimes. Like I said,
She
tampering with
was
evidence, misleading an
her response to
investigation.
that was like she was afraid for her own life, that Richard would have killed her if she didn't go through with the plan, so she went through with the plan.
But then you didn't go through with the plan,
Well, I
and
mean,
he didn't
I
kill
think
you.
I tried to save his life by not showing up. I didn't think he'd drink the poison anyway.
So wait, you were afraid he'd kill you if you didn't go through with the plan, but then you just didn't show up?
Yeah.
Jenny, like, get a lawyer. You need to stop talking for yourself.
So,
like, I'm the cop, and even I'm like, ooh, shut up. Like, the correct option here, say nothing.
oh yeah, and Samuel Kidd was Jenny's fiance, who she left to be with the Ives. That was important. Like the drunk in Great Holling said something that Catchpool misunderstood, but Poirot knew the meaning of, and that's how he figured out that she married.
Well, Jenny, you're definitely going to jail, but before you do, I just have one more question. Why was half his face shaved?
The answer to that, Ben, which we'll find out later, is he climbed out of a tree on the third-story window and cut his face, and then tried to disguise it as him being really bad at hygiene. I love your facial reaction.
I'm rooting for this book because I bought it for you, even though you didn't use it. So I'm rooting for this book, but that's dumb. Also, it seems very easy that she just confessed everything.
Yeah, sure did.
Is there more to it than this?
So, yeah, what had happened is, I know they go back to Greater Holling. They talk to the doctor. Margaret Ernst got the shit kicked out of her.
Oh my God.
Margaret and the doctor will eventually marry at the end of this. So, there's a whole thing about what if murder began with a D because B killed A, C killed B, D killed C, Look, the point is there were two plans here running in tandem.
Plans within
what
plans.
Had happened?
It's like Dune.
Yeah, exactly. Poirot gets everyone in from the hotel and all the possible suspects, and
do we not know what happened?
So what happened for real, Ben?
Oh, okay.
Because no one believed that Ida and Harriet would ever have thought they were wrong. What had happened is...
Can I tell you, Harriet reminds me of a woman who lives in my town whose house is plastered with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. propaganda. She's always on her porch. And when I say plastered, I mean like you cannot see her porch underneath all the RFK Jr. And I remember seeing that, and I remember thinking like, wow, I thought the Trump signs were offensive. This is just,
oh, wow.
This is just sad. I just feel bad for you, Harriet.
So, Harriet actually wanted to speak with the dead. See, Jenny knew that there was some affair going on between Patrick Ives and Nancy Duquesne, so she tried to soften the blow by telling Harriet, because Harriet was the one who figured it out, and she was like, no, she's just speaking to the dead, and he could do that for you. And Harriet was all about speaking to the dead, because her obsession is her dead husband, and Patrick Ives didn't want to go along with that, so Harriet spent the rest of Patrick Ives' life destroying it, right?
Because he wouldn't help her speak with the dead?
Yes, exactly.
Why did she go to a Christian vicar for this? At like the height of the spiritualist movement?
Because she's a fucking idiot. She's a crazy person, Ben. She votes for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in 1929.
Touche.
Yeah. What had happened is Richard did go to Jenny and did say, "We all gotta pay," but Ida and Harriet were not in on it. Richard reached out to Ida, and Jenny reached out to Harriet with the plans to poison them and kill them. And at the same time, though, so the people who gave Nancy Duquesne's alibi, they had a maid that they recently fired who was Jenny. Jenny is actually friends with Nancy Duquesne. As soon as this shit started going down, she went to Nancy for help, and Nancy came up with the plan. All right, we will make it look like you make it look like you try to frame me, but then I have this rock solid alibi, and then if you're ever questioned, like if you're a dumb shit and open the door when someone knocks, I don't know why you would do that. You just give this whole frame up story, and that's a lesser crime than triple murder.
Yeah, but it's still jail time.
Yeah, but it's not getting hung from the gallows. So what they did is that Richard wanted to poison Jenny, then poison himself, but Jenny was like, no, 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 no. Nancy Duquesne needs to pay as well. I'm going to frame her. Let me poison you, and then I'll get her, and then I'll die. And he was like, good plan. All about that, fam. Not realizing that she was then going to alter things to make it look like everyone was still alive later on. They put poison in the sherry and in the whatever the tea that was laced with cyanide. But what really happened is they poisoned some water earlier. Then after everyone was dead, they ordered room service to Ida's room. Ida was always facing away from the door, and she was propped up and dead. Samuel Kidd was pretending to be Richard, and I can't remember who. Jenny was pretending to be Harriet. So that the waiter would see all three of these people ordered room service at this time. They had to be alive at that time. When in reality, they're all already dead.
Okay. Okay. I am seeing the convoluted criticism.
There's a second plan here. They were afraid. She was afraid Richard would kill her because he was a crazy person.
Yeah, he seems a little unstable. I'll give her that.
And yeah, they did. Basically, they had a second concurrent plan. That's why they put the key where it was. They stuck the monogram cufflink at the back of his throat to make it look like he killed himself rather than he actually was poisoned as planned. And there you go. They managed to. He figured out that Nancy Duquesne and Jenny and Samuel Kidd conspired to basically kill these other three guys. Yay!
In self-defense, though.
Well, then Nancy, the self-defense part is about to come out. She's like, okay, you figured out the story, but it was self-defense. Jenny, tell him about the self-defense. That will clear our name. And then Jenny pulls out a knife and stabs Nancy in the fucking heart, Ben.
Oh my God.
Kills her in front of the police and Poirot and everyone in the staff. Because you see, Ben, Jenny thought Nancy was just like her. Someone who is in love with Patrick Ives, but never got any.
Oh, but then she found out she did.
Yep, Nancy admitted it was actually a physical affair, and Jenny fucking killed her.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and that bowl, that was it was painted like really oddly, like she just painted over it because it was an old portrait. And the bowl was like a Cambridge bowl or something. Poirot figured out that's how it led to him figuring out Jenny was the maid of the Wallaces who gave Nancy's alibi. There you go. That's why that bowl is important, Ben.
Okay.
Catchpool realizes he isn't afraid of death, but proximity to death. Maybe he should find a new job.
Yeah, I bet watching a woman get stabbed to death in front of him was very traumatic for him.
Yeah.
Seeing kind of like a K-all comparison here. For anybody who listened to our
You should listen to that.
oh god, what was that book called? Throne of Glass. For anybody who listened to our Throne of Glass series, there's a bit of a through line here of lawmen who are afraid of violence.
But yeah, there were two plans running in tandem to lead to the crime scenes the way they happened, Ben. And all we had to do to avoid all of this was for Patrick to just say some nice words to Harriet and pretend it was from her dead husband George, and he could continue slamming Nancy on the side.
I was gonna say he could also just not cheat on his wife.
No.
He could also just be, a man of God who doesn't have numerous scandals. I do love that necromancy was a bridge too far for him.
Threesome, Ben. I'm pretty sure that's allowed in the Bible, right?
No.
I'm pretty sure it was in the Lost Five Commandments.
The ones that were dropped in the Mel Brooks movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be. The commandments. Like God's commanding you to have a threesome?
God's commanding you, if you are thinking about cheating on your wife, instead invite your wife in because that's the nice thing to do.
One may only lay with a man as one lays with a woman if there is a woman involved. The devil's threesome is acceptable. Oh, dearie dear. Okay, yeah. So is that the end? She stabs her?
She stabs her. She's going away forever. She's like, that's fine. I die. A little part of me died the day that Patrick died.
You're all weird. Like,
yeah.
I don't even know what to like. Like if I'm Poirot in that situation, I'm like, you're all just fucking weird. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I've dealt with judges. I've dealt with rich people. I've dealt with crimes of passion, crimes of money, like genuinely sick serial killers, and this is by far one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Okay. Do you want to rubric it?
Sure, Ben.
I can't because I didn't read it, so I will.
Words, blogs. It's on our blog.
blog.wordsabouutbooks.ninja.
Extra Nate.
This is an all Nate rubric. Content and ideas.
So I gave it a. I mean, obviously, I couldn't give it full credit for being original because it's not. It's very much not. Because it's Agatha Christie, but written by someone else, right?
Yeah.
But I still gave it a 4.5.
Okay, that seems pretty high praise. So
I went with the leaves a lasting impact on the reader, and I would say it did that.
So in acting as the listener, maybe the way you described it, some of it seems kind of silly. Is it a little more mysterious in the book? Is there a little bit more problem solving, or?
Yeah, there's a shitload of problem solving. There's more than I could have written down.
Okay. So did you think it was like a decent solvable mystery?
I did. And I liked that the story kept taking little twists.
Yeah,
I was
definitely.
like, that's weird that this isn't a parlor scene, but that's the end. Okay.
I was confused when it seemed like she confessed to everything and it seemed like a perfectly reasonable explanation. So I could see that. I mean, in all fairness, like the way we do these episodes, we probably are not conveying the spirit of the text.
Yeah.
So, no, that is interesting. I'm sure it was probably a neat little twist for there to be like a perfectly plausible version of the murder somebody confesses to, and then have that actually not be the case. So that's interesting. Organization, you mentioned it was a little long. I'm wondering where you stand on that.
I went with a 4.
Oh, okay.
I can't give it a 5. I think it flowed well, but and maybe I'm comparing it too much to Agatha Christie novels, but the ones we read are like 2 to 300 pages, and everything, like every page, every chapter served a purpose, and it was like as trim as it could possibly be. There were definitely some times in this where the pace was just a tad slow, like when he went to the village of Greater Halling. So yeah,
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to ask, because I know the biggest praise we have for Agatha Christie is it's just what's on the page is exactly what needs to be there. Nothing more, nothing less. So it doesn't sound like this is quite that tight.
no, it's not that tight, but I think for the most part it's solid.
Okay. So use of language. I'm kind of interested in this. Is it like period appropriate?
What's that?
So the use of language, I'm kind of wondering specifically, like,
Oh,
is it appropriate to the 1929
yes.
setting and all that stuff?
It was appropriate, and Poirot used all of his little gray cells and
So he did all the
calling.
Poirot catchphrases and
Yeah, yeah.
okay, I like that. Did it feel like a Poirot story based on your limited selection?
Based on my limited selection, yes. There are probably Agatha Christie fans who are mad at me right now for saying that.
So where are you coming down on use of language?
I came down as a 4.
Okay, so what do you think is it? What's it missing?
That's tough. I rarely give out 5s for this. I think I would say it's better than average, but it's not like the language didn't stick with me. It created an atmosphere for the book, but it's not like perfect. Like I don't know what it's hard for me to quantify.
I think if I had read it, what I'd be looking for specifically is how closely it sort of mimics Christie's style, and I really can't judge anything about it without having read it. I only have what you tell me, but I wonder what Sophie Hannah thinks about that. I actually have not listened to the interview with her and Kemper Donovan on that All About Agatha podcast, but I wonder if she talks about do you try to write an Agatha Christie novel, or do you try to write a Sophie Hannah novel with Agatha Christie's characters? But yeah, I mean, I'll just have to trust you on a 4. I probably will read this at some point. I don't. Maybe I'll give an update on the blog or something with what I think.
There's more of them.
I knew
too.
that. I know this is like only the first in a series of new Poirot stuff. And my mom uses my Kindle account, so I actually own the book.
Nice, me too. Twinsies.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm gonna read mine. I'm not gonna disrespect my friend's purchase. What's next? Personal preference.
Personal preference. I went with a 5. I really like this book.
So would you say it was like a really insightful gift from a friend who, up until now, has just been trying to like meme you to death?
Yeah. It was a lot better than last year's book, which for some reason I can't remember what it was. It's just this this void in my
Kevin J.
my
Anderson
memory.
and Brian Herbert. They did not mimic Frank Herbert's style.
And they didn't have a nice trim book that was to the point.
I think
you know?
listeners are concerned about us when we try to torture each other. I think they're afraid like we're gonna start to hate it and stop doing it. So
That's why we have a written contract, an ironclad contract
yep.
for this podcast.
But no, I mean, just know, listeners, like we joke, but partly I wanted to pick a nice one for you so that people would feel good about our relationship. I don't know. With that said, recommendation strength. I think I know where you're going.
Gave it as a 5. I actually recommended it to my mom as I was reading it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she was forced into retirement, which kind of sucked.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely have to check it out then. I don't know when I'll get to it, but I will put something on the blog and I'll announce that on Words About Books when I finally read it. I was actually going to try to read this one with you, but the pneumonia came through and put a stop to that ambition. So yeah, overall, what was your score?
88 out of 100, so I gave it 5 stars.
It's pretty dang good. Is that our first 5-star of the year?
That can't be right. Let me look.
A 5-star is rare for anyone who doesn't listen to the podcast
books
regularly.
This year. There's no way. I had to have given something else 5, right? The Hunger Games. I think I gave 5 stars.
Did you?
Nope, 4 stars. Damn, really?
Yeah.
I almost feel like that should have been 5 stars.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't think I gave anything 5 stars. Maybe Mona Lisa Overdrive. Yeah, I did. Mona Lisa Overdrive got 5 stars from me, but that was also like that was a sweetheart 5 stars. I got a soft spot for
The Hobbit. I gave The Hobbit 5 stars.
The Hobbit. There you go. There you go. But we didn't rubric The Hobbit, so that's not fair.
Yeah, let's see. I don't even know why I moused over Bridge to Bat City. That was or Hellhole.
I gave Android's Dream of Electric Sheep 4 stars. I gave The Hunger Games 4 stars. Yeah, I think so. I Mona Lisa Overdrive was 5 for me, and this is I think the first 5 from you for this year.
Yeah, I think maybe I should have given a 5 to Hunger Games, but you know what? It's fair. I'll keep it at a 4. I'm sticking by my guns.
So would you say, to pay Sophie Hannah perhaps a very high compliment in mystery circles, Sophie Hannah greater than Gaston Leroux?
Yeah. By a wide margin. Now, unfortunately, we didn't both read this book, so you cannot qualify for a Wabi. I'm very sorry.
Well, maybe I'll read it just to meet the technical qualifications. Believe it or not, I actually enjoy liking things. I want to like things.
Do you want to give us a sneak peek on Pendragon and how much you like that?
Okay, so yeah, how much do you think? Because I gave you a really nice, thoughtful book. So how much do you think I like this one? Merchant of Death by DJ McHale.
I would guess you'll give it 3 stars.
Yeah, you're probably close to right. So I guess the preview for the next one is it's a kind of not like a children's book, but like I'd say like a middle grade book.
Yeah, that's about when I read it. And
I think hands down the biggest problem with the book is it I just can't imagine a middle grader reading it today and not laughing at it. just the slang and a bunch of stuff. It's just I'm sure it was there's a real sweet spot for when this was probably the most impactful to read, and I think you probably hit that sweet spot. I don't think it's bad though, so that won't be it's not going to be like an Ernest Cline level crapping on the book. But yeah, that's your preview. That's be reading Merchant of Death, Pendragon #1 by DJ McHale, which is higher rated on Goodreads than the Sophie Hannah book. You gotta love it.
All right.
Yeah, that brings us to the end
Shout
of the
out
episode.
To our podcast, our Patreonies.
Our shout out to our patrons. So we shout out our Yacht Plan tier patrons. These are people who pay, frankly, too much for this podcast. They are Spooky Shy, Shy with a Y on TikTok, John Bierce, author of The Mage Errant, The Rack, and an upcoming new project. John Bierce also has a patron you can check out. Jamie, the Gravy Man. You can call him Mr. Gravy. He writes the If You Want the Gravy movie blog.
Gravy.
There's, of course, Isekai Sensei Sama of that time I got reincarnated in the same world as an anime podcaster podcast. And I believe that is everybody. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. And
Shy with a Y?
I said that first.
Okay. Well, I wasn't paying attention because it's on TikTok, and I think that doesn't exist anymore or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely still does. But yeah, so that's it. I'll see you next time when we will talk about The Merchant of Death by DJ McHale.